Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to episode number 55 of the White Knuckle podcast, powered by Ozonics. Undetectable, undeniable. Well, hey everybody, thanks for tuning back into episode number 55 of the White Knuckle podcast. Today we have a couple of guys from ONX Maps. ONX Maps is, I guess I would call it a staple for any public land hunter. And the reason that I would do so is because it's basically an electronic plat map for your phone. It does everything that a GPS, well, maybe not everything that a GPS does, but by and large, it does everything that I would need a GPS for. And I didn't know until talking to these guys that it was as accurate as a GPS. So for those of you who don't know, it's an interactive mapping tool that allows you to see what land is public, what land is private, what special programs might be within your state that they can sync with and overlay that information on the map. It just, it really keeps you out of trouble, I guess, in some instances. And as far as a scouting tool, I guess I didn't realize it until speaking with these guys today, but you can, track your movement and things of that nature. I knew that you could put different waypoints for, say, rubs, beds, things of that nature, but I did not know that you could go back and look at your tracks as long as you've turned the tracks on. So, that was one big game changer for me this year in public land hunting. What I was uncertain of is how Todd would react to the technology, having not used it. Just listening to these guys, I think he's figured out a way that he definitely wants to use it. So you'll have to listen in and find out the application that Todd figured out that he definitely wants to put to use over the next few months. So with that, let's listen in on our conversation with the guys from ONX Maps. Hey everybody, welcome back to the White Knuckle podcast. Today I have joined with me via Skype down in Iowa, Mr. Todd Pringnitz. Todd, how's it going?
Dude, it's going great, man. We finally have gotten some real shed hunting, shed dropping weather, so I'm pretty geeked.
And on the other line, I've got Zach and Dylan from ONX Maps to talk about their product today. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Good. How about yourself?
Yeah, I apologize. We've struggled with our technical difficulties here, but I'm going to go with we've got it fixed. But and you guys know all about technical difficulties, I'm sure. But I used your map this year. I know Todd hasn't used it a whole lot, but I used your map a ton this year. Your app, the computer version. I probably drove my wife nuts because I'd lay in bed surfing, the maps and all the different layers that you can put on the maps. And we'll get into all that. One of the questions that I wanted to ask, though, is I know you guys are out west. What I guess originally was the purpose for this particular product designed. I know it started out in as a chip you could put in a Garmin, or maybe it didn't start that way. I guess fill us in on the background on ONX Maps.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Zach here. So we have our founder and CEO, Eric Siegfried. He actually kind of started this by himself in his garage, and he started by just taking public land and putting it on a chip for your Garmin GPS unit. And really the idea was he was looking at, all this expansive public land out in western Montana, and he knew there were great places to hunt. He just didn't quite know where to start, and he wanted something that was more dynamic that could move with him instead of carrying around 20 paper maps. And so he started doing that and put it on the chip, and the chip took off. It got very popular, especially once the private parcels. And really, this is all, public knowledge. It's public record data that people could get, but he was the first one to kind of put it together on a chip so he could compile it all in one place. And the chip went for a couple years, and then in 2014, I believe, we decided, a lot of the customers were reaching out. They all were carrying smartphones regardless if they were using the chip or not. And just with the smartphone, there was a lot more capabilities we could do with data. We could update it quicker, better stream, and just everything like that. And the fact that smartphones have a GPS unit in them already, we decided to go with the app. And that's kind of been our big focus for the last 2 years, is focusing on the Hunt app, and it's taken off. And it really, I can't preface how much we've heard people who started with the chip and now they're they said they put their GPS away and they're only using the app, which is awesome. We love to hear that. I mean, there's value for both, but we like to think with the app, it's, a GPS unit, and it's, over 100, I can't remember the exact number, but it's over like 150 different maps, for each state in your pocket.
Yeah, let's face it, man. Smartphones have changed it all. So what a cool thing. Jason, this is the same. I'm pretty certain Jared Scheffler from Whitetail Adrenaline. This is the same app that he uses, and he just in telling me the story of different deer that he's been chasing around the country. He's mentioned this in the map system a million times, so I know they're using it. And man, I could have used this about 10 years ago when I first moved to Iowa. I literally was doing it the old-fashioned way, either through beaconmaps.com or using plot maps, going to my local county office to track down landowners, and holy cow, this just streamlines the whole process.
Well, that's exactly what it did for me. It gave me access to a whole bunch of things in a central location, I guess would be the best way to describe it, wouldn't it, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so
absolutely. And go ahead.
So what I could do, essentially, like I said, is lay there in bed and drive my wife, crazy because I was looking for, MFL land or, there's Wisconsin's got several different types. And it just allowed me to look at all these places, and not only did it allow me to look at them from a bird's eye view, it allowed me to look at the topography too. I mean, that was I don't know exactly when you guys released that, because when I bought it, it was a chip in my Garmin, and I just thought I had to have it because it was cool. I wasn't really using it at that point in time, and obviously when the app, when I started this, or when I switched to public land, it became like I said, a game changer, just because of all of the different layers that you can put on that map. And I could see what the topography was. I could see, where I wanted to be and all that good stuff. That said, I noticed that you guys have updated quite a few things. If you can tell us what's been updated recently, I've noticed a couple things.
Yeah, for sure. And This is Dylan here. And for those of the listeners that might not know or have a background with the product, basically, what it does, we've already kind of talked about the public land, but what it'll also show you is the private property owners. And the interesting thing about the app, it's a lot more dynamic than the chip we were speaking of. Like you said, you can, turn on layers, turn off layers, depending on what you want to see at any particular time. So you can go in and turn on those overlays if you want to show who owns that private property, and get some contact information that way. But as far as updates, we update each state at least once a year. That's just updating the private property ownership data. If any public, transferred, anything like that, we make sure to get that updated as well. So anything on the map, we update at least once a year. But as far as new data, we're constantly adding new layers. We work with companies like organizations like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and Boone and Crockett and Eastman's and that kind of stuff. So what we can do with our product is digitize the data that they have compiled, and then show it on the map in layers. So we've added quite a few new layers for this year.
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed that when I was in. Now, Wisconsin hasn't updated their MFL managed forest land stuff, and won't until probably March when they have all their contracts signed, etc. But you guys. I was really impressed last year. As I said earlier, Wisconsin's got a couple different kinds of programs. Aside from having, just the normal public hunting, they have VPA, which is voluntary public access. They've got MFL, which is managed forest land. And then there's one other acronym that I can't remember just because I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. But the VPA thing, I'm, you guys were on top of it. I scouted a piece of property. Todd, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I had called Tyler Tissue because I had scouted this probably a 400-acre piece of VPA in early August, and went through the whole thing and came back probably to put a. I don't remember if I was there to put a trail camera out or what the case was, but I pulled up and there were no signs anymore for voluntary public access, and I pulled up the app and it was gone. It was no longer listed that quickly. It was no longer listed as VPA. So what I learned in that process is that the 1st of September is when those contracts get renegotiated, and that guy had just dropped out. So you guys must really, I mean, how many people are working on this all the time?
So we do have a whole GIS team that is on top of it for each state. So for in Montana, for example, we've got a similar program called block management. It's a private land program that allows, the public to come access and hunt. And those typically go out about August 15th. So our GIS team is in contact, with the organizations that run those all throughout every state. And so like Montana, for example, they renew contracts the 15th, and we typically get the data on that date. So we, especially with seasons coming really shortly after that, people want to scout and make plans for the year. So we'll update that data within a week of when we can get it, just to make sure everybody, is on the same page and that our users have the most up-to-date, accurate data out there. But, as far as our whole team, we've got just over 85 employees here at Onix. And a lot of that is the GIS team that handles situations like you just kind of spoke on.
Oh, you guys are a real deal.
Yeah, they're not screwing around. I mean, especially I can imagine someone, taking and using your information, and if it's wrong, it's obviously, you're certainly user beware, but you guys kind of have to be on top of the game.
We definitely want to have, we want to have the most accurate maps. I mean, anyone could put this data together, but the thing we find, especially with our GIS team, is there's a lot of discrepancies in data. So you'll have boundaries, you're getting from different sources, and the boundaries will overlap. And their job is to go and contact these counties and figure out what's missing and where the slip up was. And that's one thing that's always nice with like our customers is obviously they're going to be frustrated when those boundaries are off. But the great thing is we have a very loyal customer base who, we look for feedback from them, whether they're looking for a feature, but also if there's a parcel error, you can actually hold on it and submit a parcel error to us. And it just helps us make a more accurate product.
Oh, really? Go through that. You said a customer can actually submit a parcel to you?
Yeah. So if there's an error, there's a couple different ways you can do it. But if you're holding on and, we have a couple different ways in the app that you can go through and actually send the error to us, as long as, and also we always get people hitting us on social media, email, customer service, letting us know there. But if you just go, you're pulling up the map and you just hold on to it and you'll hold down in a long press here, they'll be down at the bottom. If I'm correct, Dylan, correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah, so with the new way, we recently just changed kind of the process on that, updated a little bit. So if you're looking at the map and zoomed in on, say, a private parcel that you had purchased, and let's just say, for example, the county didn't update, your recently purchased parcel within the last year, so it's still showing the old owner name. If you just tap on that parcel, more information about that will come up. It'll show all the information about various layers that we have turned on based on where you tapped on the map. And then there's a section in there where you can just report error. So that's just, like we were saying, for example, if the county hasn't updated their records, You report that to us, say, okay, I own this parcel. Here's my information. Here's what it should read. That gives our GIS team the opportunity to reach out to the county specifically and say, hey, let's make sure, that we update this. And as soon as the county or our source updates their data, then we can go ahead and update the map right away.
Just to clarify, and Todd, if I'm hogging the airwaves, well, I'm sorry.
Oh, dude, go for it, man.
I'm on the app right now. I'm looking at it. We'll call it an area of interest, and I pull it up and I get the about this location. Is that where you're doing it from?
Yeah. Yep.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and if any of the users wanted to contact, obviously we've got our customer support that would walk them right through anything like that. But it's just a great addition to the maps, and it's just it kind of attests to we want to have the most accurate updated maps available, like Zach was saying there. So kind of gives the user peace of mind, and then when we update it, we reach back out to the user who reported that error and say, okay, this is updated. Thanks for letting us know.
Kind of a cool aspect of it. I know there's obviously a million different applications for your software and your app. I'm not very familiar with it. So what I'm kind of curious to know is, like, for myself, I'm hunting mostly private land, but one of the times of year that I'm going into right now is shed hunting, where I basically will be combing all the timber and checking everything. One of the thoughts I have is see if it was possible, like, to put waypoints in wherever I find my major my signpost rubs, my big scrapes, community scrapes, and just kind of have an overlay to see if I can start to put together some patterns basically from it. I thought it would be very interesting to do that. Does your app, like, for me, how would I go about downloading? Is it do you pay for the state? Like, I would need Iowa. How does it exactly work?
Yeah, there's a few different ways you can go about it. We've got a premium membership. First and foremost, I guess we offer a free week trial. So if anybody's wanting to check it out but not wanting to purchase yet, if you just download the app from either the App Store or Google Play Store, log in, create an account, it'll give you a free 7-day trial with full access. After that, we do offer a premium membership, which is a single state membership, and then an elite membership, which is all 50 states. So depending on, if you're drawing some states out west, or if you hunt multiple states, that elite membership is going to be the way to go. So you have nationwide coverage there. And real quick, I guess the price on those, the premium membership is $29.99 and the elite membership is $99.99. So for $100, you could have all 50 states. But as far as, the waypoints and that kind of thing, we definitely do that in the app. The app basically turns your phone or tablet, whatever device you're using, into a GPS. So you can still mark waypoints. You can track yourself. It will show your location, on the screen itself. So, I'll use it that way, and all of our users, I guess, use it that way. But as you're finding rubs or scrapes or what have you, you can mark a waypoint and change between custom icons to kind of customize the map for what you want to see. And then you can also go in the notes or name that specific. So you could say, like, rub, February 6, 2018, or whatever you wanted to do there, to kind of get the bigger picture of your property if you're managing it, or the public piece. But you can do that. You can also track yourself. So for shed hunting, a lot of people, myself included, will turn on their track. So it'll actually track where I've hiked. So whether you're zigzagging or gridding out an area for sheds, or even blood tracking, it'll actually show where you've been so you're not overlapping.
That would be pretty cool to see, wouldn't it?
Is that new? Because honestly, I didn't. I'm going to probably sound like a complete idiot, which I am sometimes. But I was just about to. I was thinking. I hope I don't offend anybody, but I was going to say, one of the reasons that I didn't get rid of my Garmin, the Garmin that I use, is because I can just come back home after spending 6 hours of walking and plug it in and see everywhere I've been and look at all those waypoints. But as I'm looking at the app, I feel like a complete idiot. I see down in the right lower right-hand corner there's a tracker. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, no, yeah. I mean, so essentially the other thing that's nice is with a complicated product, there's a lot of features. It is definitely something that we run into, trying to make it as simple and intuitive as possible. But we completely understand there's a lot of data in there. But with the tracker, what's nice is you can turn that on without service. So if to use our app without service, you save the map, the area you're going, and then you tap track, it's going to give you, the time you're going, the distance and speed. But what's great is if you want to save that, after you're done, you just say stop. It'll save it for you, ask you if you want to save. You can name it. And then it actually syncs to all your devices. So anytime you log in, you guys could log in on my smartphone. As long as you have service or Wi-Fi, it's going to pull up those tracks, waypoints, any markups you make. And, so what's great is you could pull it up like you were talking, Jason, how you are on your computer all the time. You go and mark your tracks when you're out shed hunting, whatever. And then you come back home. As soon as it syncs to service, you'll be able to pull up everything you did that day from all your waypoints and tracks.
Is that new?
We've had that one in there for a little while.
Oh my God, I feel like an idiot.
Dude, that would be, I'm just imagining. Now, is there a way to overlay day after day? So if I shed hunt every day for a month, is there a way to look at that as a total season total, so to speak, where everything's overlaid?
Yeah, what you could also do is name those by day. And as Zach was saying, they sync to your all devices. So if, say, you're logged in on a phone, tablet, and then go home later and log in on a computer, you'll be able to see that data on all of your devices, no matter what, say you made it on your phone, you can still pull it up on your computer. But what you can do is save it by day, and then you can go in and specifically turn on or off those tracks individually. So say you wanted to just look at a specific day or a specific week of tracks or waypoints, you could just turn off all the other ones, or as a whole, like you were saying, just turn them all on at one time to see kind of the overlay of the different month or whatever time period.
That's pretty incredible. I didn't have any idea that all that stuff was available.
Yeah. And another kind of application for that, and the really nice thing about the capability of syncing all of that data between devices, and kind of how I use it personally, all of our users are going to use it differently depending on what their needs are. But if I'm going on a hunt, next week, for example, or a shed hunt or whatever, I can go on my computer, pull it up on a big screen, scout an area out. I can mark waypoints of kind of what I want my hunt or whatever activity I'm doing is to be, and kind of plan out the whole day, the whole hunt, mark lines, tracks, routes, that kind of thing. And then when I get out there, they're automatically on my phone. So I can do all my scouting and planning on the computer and then not have to worry about transferring those or syncing those over. All that data is just right on my phone when I need it once I get out to the field.
Well, I think that's where, certainly your product here is like I said, a game changer for public land. But as a private land hunter, like Todd was just saying, you can track your, your different tracks that you've been on, and you're not obviously covering ground, or you are covering ground, etc. I think that's kind of where Todd was going with that, and I think we may have lost him. I'm not sure.
I'm back.
Oh, he's back. I think
I'm back, man. I snuck right in.
You did, right the back door. Good job. I think what he was getting at is just being able to, I don't know, you guys can agree or disagree, but isn't it easier looking at things sometimes from a 50,000 foot view and being able to see what you've done and whether it's rubs that you're looking for, or, following a trail in and where it goes to and where that sign is on the trail and all that stuff. It just seems like, to me, it made it 10 times easier to kind of get a feel for what the deer are doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, can you imagine, like, you went shed hunt with me, in all the, in a bunch of timber behind my place. And, even though I've been doing it for years and years and walking a lot of this property, sometimes you kind of become a product of your own environment and you kind of back yourself into a corner and put the blinders on, so to speak. So for me, I think it'd be really cool just to track my daily shed hunts and then overlay, day after day after day, and just see if I really truly am hitting all those little spots. Because sometimes, sometimes you I think can be a little bit overconfident maybe sometimes. And so for me, it would be just interesting to see what travel patterns I actually have, and then see if it corresponds with what I see for the actual deer pattern.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a quick question, and this is a selfish one. Can you share all of those routes at all with anyone else, or no? I know you can share like
Currently,
a waypoint or some
waypoint.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So kind of, not to tease out too much, but currently right now you can share one waypoint, and once you mark it, you tap on it and it'll give you a couple options, but it has that share button, and you can share that link through text, email, etc. But currently right now you can't share multiple at the same time or tracks. That is certainly something that we're working on for 2018. We don't have a date yet. I don't want to disclose that information, but it's definitely something that people have requested, and we're definitely working on getting them.
Interesting, because Todd invites me down to shed hunt, and I'm from Wisconsin, and I drive down to Iowa, and I think I'm going to roll out of the truck into a pile of sheds, and we go shed hunting, and we find like 3 sheds, and I'm driving home that day thinking he didn't take me into any of the good spots. So Todd, I'd like you to buy this app and track everywhere you go from here until I get there, so I know that you're truly taking me into the good spots. Okay,
dude, I'm like kind of fascinated about this just because it's the perfect time of year for me to do it, because I haven't been out shed hunting yet, and I'm like Joe, I'm just dying. I've been watching my my Spartan cameras, which, I mean, just talking about technology, years ago you had to be out checking cameras every day or two, monitoring shed droppage, if you want to call it, and just technology is nuts. So I'm kind of like changed my opinion, and so I'm trying to use some different tools, but just for the curiosity's sake, just to keep track of your mileage and my daily routes or whatever. I'm just curious to see if I have any patterns that I haven't noticed before, and hopefully find those holes where the sheds are crawling into, or the coyotes bring them into, because sometimes you just wonder where the heck they are at, man.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys found 3 last year, I think that's 3 more than Zach and I found on most of our trips. So you're doing all right. But yeah, no, it's a great tool for multiple things. I use it for basically all year round. So I'm going to use it shed season coming up. We're getting excited for that. Spring bear, even out, in the summer, camping, hiking up to lakes, that kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's for sure going to be used this spring.
So is it safe to say you guys are on a lot of public land?
I think we're mostly on public. We're in Missoula, Montana is where Onix is based out of. And there's a lot of forest on this side of the state. I'm from eastern Montana originally, and there's a lot more private over there. So definitely, if I'm using the product personally over on the western versus eastern side of the state, it's different applications for sure.
Okay, Todd, do you have any other questions that are on the top of your mind?
No, I'm going to be downloading the app though for sure, because I'm really excited. Like I said, just for shed season, it would be really, really interesting. And it kind of like I don't know. I want to change my perspective, and just like what you said, 50,000 foot view is oftentimes what you need. And I honestly have not really gotten into maps so much because I'm out on the terrain and hunt the same areas now for several years. But just that shed hunting application, I see guys, shed hunters are nuts, man, and I'm one of them. So just from that standpoint, to be able to put all that onto a map, all that information, I'd be really curious. So I'm going to do it for sure, and do it right from the beginning of my season so I can track everything. So I'm going to have Jason translate all the technical stuff for me, as he always does. But I'm excited to work with your guys' stuff, and just from hearing Jared talk about it, like I know how big of a part of his hunting season it basically has made. I mean, that's how he scouts, and the same thing with you, Jason. You were talking about it all this whole season. So for the guys who are hunting public land and like trying to find those little gems, man, this seems like the ticket.
Yeah, it
for sure.
It really was. What way do you guys find yourself using it the most? I mean, the obvious thing is to make sure you're not trespassing. But what's one of the things that maybe most people haven't thought of? Well, like I guess the tracking thing is great that you mentioned that, because now I know. Is there anything else that you can think of that most folks don't know?
Yeah, I'll take that one first. For me, it kind of goes back to what you were kind of discussing a little bit earlier about just getting a bigger picture. So, I know you were kind of speaking on whitetail hunting out east, or possibly even private land. But for me, like if I go out, I'll mark waypoints for everything, whether it's an elk rub, a wallow, a heavily used trail, a saddle, all that information I'll mark out, especially if I'm in a new area. And then when I get home, I can, all that stuff syncs over. I can pull up my computer and look at it from a different perspective, from that 50,000 foot, zoom level, or I can zoom in all the way to each specific waypoint and look at the aerial imagery and kind of figure out what everything's doing. And then I can switch to like a topo view and kind of, look at the saddles and the ridge lines and what have you there to kind of just take all the data that I compiled and get a bigger picture of maybe what that elk herd is doing. They might be going through a saddle over to a wallow I found or anything like that. But that's a big way how I use it personally. And there's one other thing I wanted to touch on real quick. So one of the most common misconceptions of the app is if, a user has it and they don't have service where they're going, they think they can't use it. With us being a Western focused company, or where we started, pretty much all places that we go out here, we don't have service. But what you can do is if you know where you're going ahead of time, you can just save that portion of the map. And then once you get out there, everything will work just fine. All your layers will still show up. Your GPS location will still work. So as long as you save that ahead of time, you can use that no problem. So as far as features go, that's probably the feature that I use by far the most often. Okay, so
it allows you to. Can you walk us just real quickly through how you would go about saving the? And I know it'd be nice for video, but anybody who's got this is going to kind of know what you're talking about. But how would you go about saving that map? Like I'm looking at my app right now. Where would I go to do that?
If you're looking at the app on the bottom, do you see the tab? It says off grid.
Mm-hmm. I guess that would make sense.
Perfect. So if you tab that one there,
yep.
And then save new map, what this will give you the capability of doing is you can save either a 5-mile map, a 10-mile map, or a 150-mile map. And that's just different resolutions. So example, if you're hunting 3-acre parcel, you can save that 5-mile map and you'll have everything covered. And then you'll be able to zoom in real tight and get really crisp aerial imagery, and what have you there. If you're going to a much larger area, say you don't really know exactly where you're going, you can save that big map. When you zoom in real tight, it won't give you quite the crisp imagery, but you'll still be able to see who owns the private property, all the public lands, and all the data overlaid there. So you just choose whether you want the 5, 10, or 150 to save that area. And then once you get out there, all you have to do is tap that off-grid map tab again, and then tap the go offline button, and then it'll just pull it up. And it basically turns your phone into airplane mode, so it's not searching for service. It won't, use up all your battery. But yeah, as long as you save it ahead of time, you're good to go.
That's what I would be doing here too, for sure.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I could have used that a lot this year. I didn't. A couple of the guys that I hunted with that used to work at another outdoor company, they had done that, and I thought, oh, that's a great idea. I just never ended up doing it. I was hunting in Wisconsin, but I was hunting in hill country, and when I say hill country, it's nothing like what you guys have, but it's close in some respects, and you get to the bottom of a ridge, and there you might just as well forget it. and because you wouldn't have anything. However, once you got on the top, you got service again. But I can see where out west or in an application where you have crappy cell service, that would be a real nice feature. One thing that I wanted to ask, only because I've done this, is you guys a while ago, I believe it was at the end of last year, made it a feature so that you could, and I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, you could take what was on your Garmin and push it to the app itself, or is it vice versa?
So you definitely can transfer data. We do have an import option off of our web-based, our computer-based product that comes with the app. So that is, you can do that. And if anybody wants to transfer over data from, like, say, a Garmin GPS or their Basecamp program on their computer and upload that into the app, we've got some really good detailed FAQs on our website that kind of take that step-by-step, walk you right through it. So there's a few steps, but yeah, it's definitely doable.
But I mean, now with the ability to track, and maybe it was always there, I just didn't know it. I don't really see where that would be beneficial, and maybe guys or gals that use a Garmin more than I do would know. But I did it once, and it screwed up my map because it's got lines all over it, and I don't know how to get rid of them. But and I'll go to the frequently asked questions and figure that out. But yeah, it would seem to me that you wouldn't even need to use that with that tracking tool. Maybe that's why Garmin came out with a site this year, because you guys are going to put them out of business.
They still, to use our chip, there's plenty of people who are still using the chip. It's great to be able to, reassurance-wise, it's great to be able to throw in a set of AA batteries and have that. And some people, with your phone, they're not quite as durable as a Garmin unit, so definitely there's value, but the idea with the app is we'd like to think that this is all you need. As long as you're saving it, it has a GPS, you can track it, and it'll sync back, and you can pull it up on your phone or the computer or a tablet. So, we definitely are looking to make a product with the app that, can, no matter what you're hunting or where you're hunting, you can find use for it.
Do you think it's as accurate as a Garmin in terms of where you do? Okay.
Yep, absolutely. The GPS, that's in the actual phone, is definitely, it definitely varies whether, some things can play in as far as like if you have anything blocking you up top, any tree cover, stuff like that, but usually it's within a couple feet. There was a time this fall, actually, elk hunting, that I was standing on a corner marker for Forest Service, and it was, spot on.
Yeah, I can. That's great. I'm glad that we got a chance to talk to you, or I got the chance to talk to you and learn that. That would have helped me from marching back and forth for 45 minutes looking for a trail camera 12 feet up in a tree that I'd probably walked by several times. Because sometimes when you on your app, you're looking at a bird's eye view, and you're able to see not only the topography, but you're able to see a bird's eye image, not just a blank white screen. So from that aspect, I think it's really a good tool. Clearly, Todd, do you have any other questions?
Oh, just in regard to your what's your update for satellite imagery? So like each year when I put different food plots into my farm or whatever, I always like to go in and see what they look like, from a different perspective. Is it a yearly thing? So I can expect, like, if I downloaded the Iowa map, when would the update time be, or I guess how fresh are they?
That's actually that's something that we get from a third-party source, and it's definitely something that's been, brought up from our customers. Unfortunately, right now we don't have satellites, driving around and getting us a bunch of aerial imagery. That would be,
right.
We'd love to have that. Very expensive, but I do, we're certainly always looking into making that more accurate, but it really depends. The further you zoom in, the more updated it'll be.
Okay.
But it's definitely something that we have recognized as an issue and something that we want to continually update. So that way it's as updated as our app. And we're working on some stuff.
Cool. Cool. I mean, it's kind of similar to like a Google Earth, like as far as like updates go.
Yeah, it depends. It really depends on the area, to be honest. It can vary. It can vary a couple years, depending on state or even just, we can see differences between counties.
Well, definitely a tool that, I came into this podcast thinking Todd wasn't going to find a whole lot of value in it because he just doesn't hunt public land anymore, and I've learned a whole bunch. So I'm glad that we got the chance to do this. If I can just change it up for a second, unless anybody has anything more they want to add, holler now. Otherwise, I'm going to ask away. Zach, what's your I guess game of choice to hunt?
For me, it's kind of a toss up, but I think not late season, but rutting mule deer is tough to beat for me. Just in the open country, a lot of spot and stock. That's kind of my favorite as of right now.
And Dylan, how about you?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of grew up hunting those rutting mule deer, and that's still definitely a blast. I love hunting mule deer in the rut, and being in Montana, we're fortunate enough to be able to do that. But I got to go with rutting elk. So September elk season is pretty tough to beat with a bow in the hand.
You guys are pretty much in a sportsman or sportswoman's paradise out there. You guys have like dozens of game animals to chase. I know that's one area that I love the mountains, man. I'm a mountain man, but whitetails are just my thing. That's how I grew up doing my thing. Do you guys hunt whitetail much out there?
We do. We actually, we both kind of focus. Rifle season was such a, we're allowed to hunt them even during in the rut. So it starts in late October and pushes into end of November. But actually last year we both had a just river bottom specific tag for whitetails, and we ended up getting into a couple and actually rattled one in. Dylan rattled one in for me and ended up shooting one with a bow. So it's not quite what you guys get to see. We don't have the opportunity there as far as the big giants for whitetails, but there's definitely some good hunting around Montana.
Is there is there a lot of other hunters that you have to deal with?
Yeah,
I think that one kind of varies.
Yeah.
Sure. Just
we're in Missoula here, and definitely there's some. I don't want to say competition because it's great people are getting out and hunting, but there's definitely quite a few other hunters around the area. But you can, Montana is such a big state with relatively low number of people. So, if you're not afraid to throw a pack on and hike a few miles, you can definitely get away from the crowd.
Any other questions?
I am excited to get started with just the shed hunting part, because right now that's all I can think about is shed hunting. I'm like watching my cameras like a hawk. I'm looking out my window right now, imagining a shed hitting the ground. So that's where my mind is at. So I'm going to be playing around with this here very, very soon. And Jason, you'll help me along the way. And no, I just appreciate you guys coming on. It's always interesting to talk with different people, different parts of the country, and what all of us find to be a common trace is we all look at maps. So it's always interesting, and I'll be excited to talk with you guys again once I've actually gotten a chance to get out and put some boots on the ground.
Yeah. No, thank you for having us.
Yeah, one thing that I've got to give you guys props on, I know probably most of you are hunters, so I don't know who's left in the office in October and November or September, but whenever I've called, you guys have been more than helpful in helping. Just even if you don't understand how to use a particular feature, you guys are really helpful. They got a great customer service department. You guys might get to know Todd really well because he's just not a techie guy. But it was a good experience for me, and we're not sponsored by you guys, and we're not paid to say any of this. So it's just genuinely, you guys do a great job, and I've had a great experience with it this year, and I'm going to have an even better experience with it now that I know that I didn't know a lot about it.
Like you said, we do have a great customer service team, and you can always give them a call or just go to our website, www.onxmaps.com for FAQs or what have you there. But there's a ton of information in that support area on that website too.
Anything else that you guys can think of? I've learned a ton. I don't know about you, Todd, but I've learned way more than I expected to. I thought I was an expert on ONX Map, but I've learned that I'm not. Anything else, Todd, that you can think of?
I'll figure out how to do the shed hunting application, and then I'll try to put some maps up. What I would like to do is share that kind of stuff, because I know just the shed hunting guys, man, they would dig that application.
Yeah, I bet the vast majority of people haven't even thought of that application, or maybe they have, and I'm just, I don't know, out of the loop. But I do have one question with respect to all those different tracks. So let's say you've got Todd's gone out, shed hunting 10 times, and when he, turns on his app on his phone, is he going to be overrun with tracks all over the place, or are you able to pull up specific tracks on specific dates, or do they all show up, or how does that all work?
If you just go down on your My Content, you can go through and choose, as long as, make sure if you want to go by date, or let's say you're naming them, you can choose which ones you want to have active at that time.
Just like as a filter kind of.
Yeah. So for me personally, I usually leave my tracks turned off. You can actually turn on or off either your tracks, waypoints, or lines by themselves. So if I want all my waypoints on but my tracks off, I can just, uncheck the tracks box, and then waypoints, check those, and then, they show up accordingly.
Okay, so are you able to overlay, like if Todd, wants to say, well, haven't I covered yet, are you able to put them all on there at the same time in any way on your say your laptop?
Yep, you would just activate all of them.
Okay.
You could just hit the tracks on top, and it would turn them all on. And if you wanted to turn off like a specific day, you just open that folder and go and choose which ones you want. But you can customize it how you would like, as far as having them all active, or turning only a couple on, or shutting them all off.
That's I do a lot of. I'm going to be doing a lot of ATV shed hunting, like on huge sections of farmland, like big, cornfields, cut cornfields, and that in itself will drive you nuts. So if I'm out actually using the app, and let's say I'm on my wheeler, it's real time, so at any time I can look and it will show me where I'm at, basically.
Yep,
exactly.
Sure.
And you could pause it too. If you're going and let's say you're going down a dirt road or something like that, you can pause your track. Once you click start, you'll have a pause or stop. You could pause it and then, start back up once you get off the dirt road or whatever.
It'll be interesting, because we used to, years and years ago, guys I used to shed hunt with, we would do some big shed hunting days, and they always used to carry a walk monitor just to see how far we would walk in a day. So sometimes you just wear yourself out. Now I'm going to actually have an idea of the distance. Now, how about elevation? Does it actually give you an elevation travel per day?
That's actually something we're working on to fix, and we'll have in 2018 as well.
Yeah, because I was going to say, your phone currently, I don't think it has that well, at least the government doesn't allow you to access an elevation key thing. But
it'll give you currently the app will give you your elevation where you're at the moment, but it won't give you like gain or loss when you're tracking.
Sure. And that's not really a big deal, but later on, when the technology's there, that would be another cool application as well.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
That's neat. I did not know any of that. That would have been really helpful this year to in some areas. Like you guys said, it's not something that, or I'm not sure who said it, but it's not something maybe that you want turned on all the time. But if you're on as soon as the snow melts here, and I'm going to go back to some of this MFL and then a property that I'm going to be hunting, I'm going to walk all that. When I don't care that I'm bumping a bunch of deer out, I'll be able to, with that app, sort of leave breadcrumbs, if you will, or whatever it's called, and be able to note the sign and, again, look at it from that 50,000 foot view that we all like, and kind of get a feel for what the deer are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's awesome, because we have so many great customers that are hunting different species, and they all find a way to use it a little differently. So, that's kind of our goal, is just try to find, try to have enough features that we can help everyone out.
Well, we like what you're doing, guys. Thank you very much for coming on our show. And Jason and I will keep our audience updated throughout the shed season. And I'm going to be using mine and just tracking my distance and stuff. I'm excited about help guys get on bigger deer.
Awesome. Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Well, hey, thanks again to the ONX Maps guys for taking the time to spend with us and also seeing the value in what we're doing to partner up with us. So we certainly appreciate that. What I wanted to do, because Todd is such, well, he's not a technical guy whatsoever. As a matter of fact, he hates the technology. So he was really apprehensive to even do this show, and I convinced him to do it just because I had so much luck with it on public land. I was just really curious more than anything to find out what he thought of it after getting a chance to play with it. So I called him the other night. We did just a very quick rundown of what he thought with it, and I was a little bit surprised at what I heard. So here's my conversation with Todd about the new ONX map tools. All I wanted to do is get back together since we had the podcast with the guys over at ONX Maps, and you never having used it before, I was kind of interested in your reaction not only when we spoke with them for you to learn about how it worked and what it did, but then now that you got your hands on it, I'm dying to hear about what you think about it, because you sounded pretty jacked up about it on the podcast once you knew what it could do for you. I've used it a lot from a public land perspective. I'm just dying to hear what a guy that only uses it on private thinks.
Well, for a shed hunting tool, I will say this is probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. Generally I don't have a GPS on me, and I'm not out marking anything on my phone or on aerials or anything, especially in, property that I've been hunting, over and over year after year. But to be able to go out, I just downloaded the ONX Hunt app, which was super easy to do. Literally within, I don't even know, just playing with it a couple minutes, I was like, okay, this seems pretty simple. But then for me, the major test is always, once you get out in the field, how is cell phone, satellite, how is the signal going to be? Is it going to work? Is it going to cut out? Whatever. And now I've been probably using it on, I don't know, a dozen shed hunts or so, probably 40, 50 miles worth. And it is the coolest thing in the world, dude. I'm a believer.
What is so cool about it?
Well, I like the track app, where basically you can go at any time. You just hit there's a simple little tracker tab. You hit start, and it's that simple. And it basically will track your movements over top of an aerial photograph or a satellite image. And you will see exactly where you walk within a couple feet. And so I wanted to put it to the test on all this property that I've been shed hunting on my farms. You get in this timber and you hit the fields, and you wonder at the end of the day, did I miss anything? And so I already noticed, I did a pretty good job on most of my spots. I'm really anal and gritting and all that, but I noticed a few spots where I definitely missed within 100 yards or something. So I'm going to be using my app now, going back in and doing my second shed hunts in these areas. And now I'll be able to fill in those holes in the spaces that I just missed and or purposely didn't hit, at that particular time. But what I dig about it, I've never had an issue with it. It works every time. All you got to do is save your track job. You can go in and edit it, look at the different your different walks, your mileage, your time, the distance. And dude, it's so simple and it works. I've never had a glitch with it. It's been awesome. So after just doing one, couple weeks of shed hunting or whatever with it, I told Jason we need to get these guys a sponsor, because this is something that I can see a lot of landowners using just to verify for shed hunting. And then when it comes time for doing food plots and stuff like that, you could even use it for planting. It's that accurate. So I don't know, man. I'm pretty excited about using it for some other applications, but just for shed season, dude, oh my gosh, it is the coolest app ever.
One thought that just occurred to me now that you said this, and I hadn't thought of it till right now, and I don't know if you had or not, but when you're tracking a deer, how useful would that be?
Oh, it'd be awesome. And that's there's a million different applications for it, and I know, and I'm very familiar with the area that I'm hunting. So if I can use it for just for backup and reference, to make sure for shed hunting or for set stands or whatever. It really is super handy, man. I dig it. I can't imagine, like, for guys who are hunting new properties and stuff, how kick butt this thing would be just to know where you are on the ground at all times. Because you can use Google Earth and some of the other programs, but sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. You don't know if they're outdated. And so, yeah, my first impression of this, I'll be using it for shed hunting for the rest of my life. Like, it's that cool.
Yeah, I agree. Just with a new property that I have, I mapped out, on the lease that I got, I mapped out the boundaries, and the first thing I did is walked the entire perimeter. The other thing is it's for anybody who's used the Map My Run app or any of those workout apps, that'll tell you, how far you've gone, how fast you've gone, and all that stuff. You can look at it when you're done and feel like you actually did some sort of workout, I guess. So that's pretty cool. But
that's kind of one of my favorite parts is after I get back from a shed hunt, you're wiped out. You have good shed hunts, bad shed hunts, or whatever. But you can sit back, have a glass of water, or even a beer or something, and sit back and look at your shed hunt and zoom in and zoom out. But still, I'm not a real tech guy, so that's what scared me initially was how complicated it was going to be. Because complicated and technology don't seem to interest me usually. And it's just not something I enjoy doing is learning, a complicated app or something. So for me, if I can do this, anybody can, but it's so simple. You can go back in, edit your different tracks, look at them, change the colors. I mean, it's cool. But the simplicity is what makes it work, is what makes it so cool to me. And I think that's why they've been such a popular app for so many guys. And now we're just starting to tap into some of these other possibilities for shed hunting. And I'm thinking even guys who are doing food plots, like planting corn and things like that, I think you could really use it in that application. I think it's accurate enough.
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, if so you walk like the boundary of what's going to be a field, then you could just go right back onto your PC, look it up there, use the area space tool, I believe it's called. Yep. You could trace your footsteps and you will get the exact amount of acreage that it is. I
didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know. Are you
serious?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can totally, you should just be able to I think it's called like line or area space or something like that. It's one of the tools. So you can measure a distance with one of them, and then you can like map out a square or any shape that you want. Really, you could just
for all these different kill plots. Holy cow, would that be awesome? Because I've been guesstimating basically, but we'll have to play around with that coming up in the future. I know. I mean, just like what you were talking about, tracking deer, and I think it's going to be one of those things that you'll find multiple uses for, and then we'll continue to play with the app and give you kind of a long time test. But I will say this much: if you're a big time shed hunter, whether you shed hunt on the same ground, your own property, or whatever, it is a pretty cool tool. And I was actually showing a few of the guys at the Iowa Deer Classic we were hanging out with, and they had never seen it before, and they're just like, "Holy cow, that's awesome, man!" Because we all do the same thing, you drive yourself nuts wondering whether you missed that spot or not. But at the same time, I don't like to waste any time. So I'm pretty lazy when it comes to like playing around with equipment and cameras and stuff like that. I want to get out shed hunting. So for me to just be able to take my phone out, start the app, it takes 2 seconds. You hit track, hit start, put it in your pocket, and you're gone. And then as soon as you're done, you just hit stop, save, and you got your next walk. And then you can, I think you go in and rename them and stuff. I've just been basically changing the colors and just sorting through them like that. But it's cool, man. I mean, just to know exact mileage that you're doing, your average time, it definitely verifies, distances and things like that. And I will say this much: I haven't been walking nearly as many miles in the past that I thought I was.
I never thought that I would call you or text you and ask you for help. But Sunday when I was walking the other new lease that I got, and I'm like, I want to change the color of this, and I'm texting you out there trying to figure it out, and I didn't figure it out until actually I got home, but it was cool nevertheless. So yeah, definitely. It sounds like that there's I don't know. There's just way more uses than what I thought there was going to be to begin with. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited to see what happens in the season and use it for a variety of different tasks and processes, I'm sure. But just alone for shed hunting, oh man, it's killer.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Just seeing how meticulous you were on that grid Saturday when we were at the Iowa show, I was impressed at how much ground you'd covered. Well,
and to me, it was kind of cool. You can actually see, like, you can overlay different maps. So you can look at a hybrid map which has your topography and your satellite imagery. You can do just satellite imagery. And then you lay your track over top of that. So, like when I'm doing grids on ridges and things like that, you're usually following a ridge edge or a ravine edge or something like that. So, being able to overlay those and then see how much of an area, for example, like a really steep ridge, where on a map it's kind of hard to discern exactly where that is. So, if you walk along the top, walk along the bottom, you've got a clear trail exactly where that topography flows. So, it really does help. Kind of just give you a measuring device, just put things in perspective. And I know my ground out here that I walk extremely well. But I still noticed the way I traveled, it was different than what I had imagined. And it's just cool, man. It's just really fun. And it's something that, when you're sitting at home at night or whatever, hanging out, and you're dreaming of shed hunting, just to be able to go back in and look at those maps gives you something to do. It's not something else fun to play with this time of year and when it's cold and nasty outside.
Well, there you have it, my conversation with Todd and our conversation with the guys from ONX Maps. I hope that you guys saw some value in the conversation we had with not only the guys from ONX Maps, but what Todd had to say about it after the fact. As many of you know, he's pretty fussy when it comes to gear, and he's pretty fussy when it comes to dealing with any kind of technology. However, it sounds like he was able to get this app up and running relatively easy, and turns out there's a ton of applications for us to use it on private land, which is exciting. Again, at the time we taped this, we weren't in bed, so to speak, with the guys from ONX Maps, and they've agreed to partner with us to an extent. So just to be completely transparent about that, this wasn't intended to be a product plug. However, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there's a ton of value here for you guys and gals. So if you don't have it, check it out. If you do have it, and you do have any questions about how to change the color of tracks, or any of the applications that we talked about, certainly don't hesitate to call one of the folks over at ONX Maps and ask them. And if you want to email Todd or myself, you're certainly welcome to do that. Todd at whiteknuckleproductions.com or Jason at whiteknuckleproductions.com. Just a few quick things before I let you go. Again, we need your reviews, please, on either Stitcher or the iTunes store. It really does not matter to us whatsoever. We just want to, get as many of you to give us feedback as we possibly can. So with that, if you can give us a review, we would definitely appreciate that. Thanks to our partner Ozonics for helping us bring this show to you. Without them and you, none of this would be possible. So we're grateful for both of you, and just want to express our gratitude for all of your support throughout the last year and a half. The show has been a great success in our opinion. We couldn't be happier with the results from it. So we'll continue to do it. And again, if you have an idea for us, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to entertain anyone's idea. We've got some really cool guests coming up. We've got Cuz Strickland to talk about turkeys. We've got Jared Scheffler to talk about whitetail adrenaline. We've got Jeff Fredericks to talk about turkeys, decoys, and turkey hunting. We've got a couple public land hunters that have been really successful. We've got a little bit of everything over the coming weeks, and we couldn't be more excited about bringing that to you. So again, for any of you who don't know how to use the iTunes app or the Stitcher app, just go to the respective stores, whether it's the Google Play Store or whether it's iTunes, and go to the podcast portion, search out White Knuckle Podcast, and subscribe to the podcast. And from within there, you'll be able to get a notice anytime one of our episodes is uploaded to your device. If you have a question about it, just shoot me an email. With that, I don't think I've got a whole lot else for today. Again, just stay tuned for the shows that are coming up. So with that, Jason out.